Okay. I'm just checking the audio, guys. Let me see. Okay. So, I think people can hear my coughs clearly. Alright, guys, so I'm gonna start this. First thing I'm gonna say is that I just got back to Canada from the airport, and it was I think more than it was like a 14-hour flight. I mean, there were delays, but I am technically really exhausted, but because I'm jet lagged, I can't sleep. So I thought, why not? I'm back in Canada. Let me record something. So something occurred to me. The title is called Mysteries of Karmic Existence. And I wanted to, two words came to my mind: karmic retribution. But then I changed it to Mysteries of Karmic Existence. And in the subtitle, I've said lifetimes into now. You see, we are, I've repeated this so many times that if you've heard the other talks, I don't need to repeat it, but I'm pretty much a person who looks at reality, looks at the world, and I divide it between what I call the inner realms and the outer realms. Now, the concept of karma is another way of saying cause and effect, or it's another way of saying action and where or what action leads to. If you were, for example, a Buddhist and you were born in a certain type of family, you would look at that as if it's the karma of your past life. Me personally, when I went to India in 2016, there was a person who seemed to have a sort of, let's say, transcendental knowing or insight. And I asked the person, hey man, how come I've had such an information outburst, in this lifetime? And he looked at me and he said, it's called sanskara, and sanskara means impressions. Now, the interesting thing is that the story of the human being, the idea of the human being, starts in this lifetime. What I mean by this is that how we know ourselves is based on our consciousness in this life. But there are clues as to how a person's energy happens. I have had moments where I would say, if somebody else was looking at that moment, that situation I was in, somebody would say, okay, this is synchronicity, this is coincidence, and someone may say it's like karma, the mystery of karma, why some things happen, why some things don't. I thought about my own attention and its nature. I think every person on this planet should do this. This is the starting point of any sort of spirituality or search for reality, The nature of my own attention, I recognize that I have a comfort with a dehumanized state of being. What I mean by this is that what we call the human experience is a known state We start from a first person point of view. We acknowledge that there's a body, a physical biological body in place, and starting from this physical biological body, as if our consciousness or awareness is like the glow of a candle, there is a space of awareness where we find ourselves in. So it's not that we just have a body, we also have a space that our attention is being, in which the body is in. Now, in my own experience, there are times where I do things by the book. What I mean by that is that, like, I've, read something from yogic culture and I've tried it out and it's made sense to me. But there has been times where I have had an inner calling. So you see, the moment a person says there's an inner realm and outer realm, that opens up the possibility for so many different types of experiences and cause and effect modalities to happen. What do I mean by this? I mean that if in the outer realm a person can jump, the question comes, can a person jump in the inner realms? If in the outer realms a person can touch an object, the question comes, can a person touch an subject behind their eyes in their inner realms? The nature of what is going on, and this is something where I would say, I think inevitably my talks will, the closer I get to the unknown, the more bizarre they will get. But what I'm trying to say is that for some time I have been under this assumption that we actually are not originally human beings. And somebody may say, whoa, Mr. Within, what does that mean? Do you mean we're aliens? No. I mean that it appears to me the intelligence of the biology, the design of universal existence, it was brewed, it's as if there's an invisible oven, okay? And then suddenly somebody brought out a cake and people were like, how is this cake here? Who made this cake? Why did the cake appear? Do you know? That invisible nature to reality is something that is so bizarre, and believe it or not, right now in a sort of globalist, in a global capitalistic society where the whole nature of human occupation is to, in some sense, become complete. You see, it's as if we're living in a time in history where we have not had great advancements. We've had advancements, but we haven't had great advancements, and so the human species feels incomplete. The more incomplete it feels, the more it's gonna desire completion. But the issue is that we are temporary. Do you see the situation? Society is built on the incompleteness of the individual. This doesn't mean that it's evil or good. It just means right now in history, as much as we have the ability to connect and communicate, people are still stranded in their inner realms, and to play the game of expressing it is kind of like a distraction. So let me tell you what it is. There's this thing they say, that if they make a person ask the wrong question, they don't have to worry about their answers. So imagine there's a glass of water on the table and there's two people, okay, or three people, right? And then somebody says, hey guys, and let's say these three people are thirsty, okay, one glass of water on the table. Person A, B, C. Person C looks at person A and B and says, hey guys, who's hungry? It's like, what food do you want to eat? It's like, should we order pizza or whatever? And so the attention of the people, person A and B, go to what pizza to order, and person C grabs the cup of water and drinks it. So really, in this reality, I wouldn't say there is success and failure. There is in the know and out of the know. There is those who are aware where the value of reality is, and those who are not aware. I'll tell you, and this is not as if everybody's perfect. I'm not sitting here in my own corner of the universe acting as if the solution is here. Right? For me, reality is a situation. Especially after 2014, I found myself being pulled towards the archetype of a strategist. really, if somebody was like, hey, Mr. Within, who are you? I'd be like, I'm just this human being looking at reality and then wondering about the probabilities of its advancement, and then wondering about what practical strategy can apply to this life form that I am. Now, why am I saying this about the incompleteness in global society and how we can get distracted from actually the real deal? Here's the situation. Imagine, I mean, you don't have to imagine it, it's pretty common, but I'll say just take it in the way I'm saying it now. Imagine there's a rock in the middle of nowhere. Creatures have appeared on this rock, and these creatures, because of the immensity of the unknown, because of the vastness of what we don't know, because of this gigantic emptiness that surrounds us, we are actually shocked. So to me, let me tell you what I mean when I'm saying we like the true nature of human, I should say it differently. We are human beings, but the nature of being is dehumanized, its essence, but the essence of the human is humanized because there's a biological body. Excuse me. So, how would I clear this up for the listeners? Okay, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that on a rock in the middle of nowhere, a species is actually in a state of shock, and it is in order to ignore the massive responsibility of standing stranded on a galactic island in the cosmos. It's as if because of our fear of the presence of a mysterious emptiness and nothingness, the species has to cower away in language. For years in these Mr. Within talks, I have been saying that there's a linguistic simulation, and that it's as if, like, when you step out of the linguistic simulation, human psychology is completely different the way it is orchestrated. But I have come to realize that there is an intended purpose for the psychology of the human being. It's as if something is so heavy we can't lift it, so the species is giving itself an excuse. This excuse is the stories we tell ourselves to make our temporary to make our journey on this world in some sense meaningful. But in reality, the unknown outweighs and is more than the known. When people realize this, you become an advanced communicator, actually, when you realize how unknown reality is. So, to continue, a species on a rock, it notices it's alone in the cosmos, it freaks out. In its freaking out, it caves itself in to the stories of its environment. You see, we are an advanced species compared to other species that are on this planet. Why? Because we managed to access another dimension of reality. They say that what is the biggest difference between animals, lesser species, and human beings? We are conscious of our death. But by being conscious of our death, it's another way of saying we have met the ending before the ending. To be honest, it's an evolutionary theater. The human being escaped out of the physical environment. It has not yet escaped out of its subjective environment. There has always, from the beginning of life, been more than even two senses of self, I will tell you. And you, whoever you are listening to me, check this out for yourself. And if I'm right or wrong, write it in the comment section. You know, there is no such thing as enlightenment when even one individual on this planet cannot see. To me, it is as if the world is enlightened, or in some sense we are in the wrong room. You know, when I look at my life, I wouldn't say I am a strong person. When I say strong, as if like, I mean physically I can pull my own weight, but I'm saying like when I say strong, as in my own character. There has been times where I have been defined by my environment. There has been times where I have been silenced by my environment. There's been times where I have been shunned by the environment. But there has also been times where I have been redeemed by the environment. And the redemption of my environment is another way of saying that my body acknowledged its position. Existential, atomic, elemental, that's it. The body is an object's life. The mind is coordinating, navigating a subject's life, but we are not that subject. And it's another way of saying, if a human being had an ability to remember their earliest memory in this lifetime, they would suddenly realize that what is watching that earliest memory is not based on memory. That means your first memory in this world is not human. It is dehumanized. You are awareness. It's as if we are space, and then the body appears in space, and when the link is made, that is conscious existence. There has been another life this whole time, ladies and gentlemen. The life of, poetically, your mind, but better yet, the life of the soul of the world. There's a greater administration here. The prophets have acted like moderators, but in reality, there is an administration here in this world, or poetically I would say there is an intelligent cosmic agency. Okay? And when I say cosmic agency, I mean that moments do not just belong to those who see them. Moments belong to all that see them. All in the world that see them. That means an ant could be on a table and there could be a group of people staring at that ant, and that ant could think, oh man, this is my table, but in reality, no. The world, if there has been a chance, if there has been, I say the 0.00, whatever amount of zeros you want, 1% chance that there has been eyes more ancient than ours that stand today, it's as if we are not in the presence of an ancient universe. We are in the presence of ancient sight. What that means is that the human being started as a known body in a known world and is moving towards realizing it is an unknown mind in an unknown world. And the unknown world is true fear. When I say true fear, that means, sure, I mean, if somebody attacks you, there's a fear, okay? If you're about to lose something, there's a fear. But the fear of the context, of the meaning of the world never being what it was. It's another way of saying before they could pull the rug underneath your feet, they changed the house you were in. Do you see what I'm saying? The ability of the human mind is actually to access a question. Our brains do not have the capacity to hold answers. We're actually designed to be great questionnaires. Do you know? I am telling you, if you look at all the wars in history, wars never started because people had questions. Wars started because people were certain of their inner realities to the degree that they had to force it. Do you know, I was raised in the country of Iran for some time. I was born there, and I will tell you, I have a very strange, but I would say intense opinion on truth and its, not just its jurisdiction, its application. This world of ours has for too long been under the spell that everything in our dualistic perception has to translate into our psychology. We are still acting as characters in a story. When will the species realize that there has always been the eyes before one can see? And when you come to terms with this, I would say this is your presence. All the yogis would say the same, that you have realized your presence prior to your personality, and it's going to be dehumanized, but you shouldn't freak out. Those people who freak out, you know what happens? Those people who suddenly contact their own unknown presence, their known personality, if it is dishonest by a tiny percentage, it will create gods. It's as if you can say the worshipping of an inconceivable God is the last excuse, or is the greatest excuse for, in some sense, an unknown intelligence. You see, when the unknown comes, nobody can do anything. It's as if something that it hasn't been revealed yet. That means, imagine a religious person was like, yo, there's going to be a revelation that nobody's not going to know what this revelation is going to be. And a materialist may, let's say a transcendental metaphysicist materialist would be, in some sense, it's as if that's what death is. Death is the greatest revelation of the lifetime, actually. It is the revelation of what you were. There's somebody by the name of Socrates, and before the story is attributed to him, that before Socrates died and drank this poison he was sentenced to by the court of Athens, that he said, when I die, I will either go somewhere where there is no Socrates, that means the unknown is unknown, or I will go to somewhere where all the questions I have been asking in this lifetime will be answered, something in those lines, he says. And what that means is that the known consciousness formed in this lifetime, you know what it is? It's like it's like a multidimensional being has used one dimension to hold, has held one dimension as a body. It's the same thing as the primitive man holding a spear. This lifetime is like an elemental spear in the hand of a transcendental warrior, poetically, And what I mean by this is that because it is let go of, this is one of the biggest clues why we are not the body. Because the body lets go. It's like a spear in your hand where the spear suddenly jumps out of your hand, That would be tragic in a battle scenario. I'll share something strange with the listeners. There are moments where I give these talks, and believe it or not, I feel it's like in my inner realms, I feel who will go on to listen to them. But it's not a time span of like 100 years. There was a time where I was giving a talk and I started saying something in it, and the moment I said it in my inner realms, I felt it was like a potential dystopia's kind of backup. This world is strange, but if we can confront and acknowledge its strangeness, we can learn to love it. I notice, I'll share something, who knows, maybe one day in the future, my kids, if I have kids, they will listen to this. And I will say the truth of my life, at least. That in this, it's getting close to a decade of me giving these talks, and it's been fairly recent in this year that I gained an insight that the moment I see there's a problem to the world, the psychology of the mind wants to fix it. It's as if the ego wants to fix a problem because it is acting like God in its own inner universe. And so I realized that my desire to see an advanced civilization in this lifetime was making me forget that I have to love where I am if I want to experience a greater love, right? And I would say, due to my a bit of religious upbringing, the concept of romance and love has been different for me. There has been times where I've read epic love stories online of people in history, but really what I'm trying to say is that after you reach the unknown and you notice that something unknown is going on, all that you can do as a known self is to trust the unknown. When you trust the unknown, the mind it becomes quiet, it settles down, and you begin actually seeing your karma. They say fools get into paradise. And I will tell you, it is the honest fool. Why? Because the honest fool is not touching the keyboard of karma to have something be written on it. It is just dwelling. Right? This is something bizarre because we are given biological bodies and we never think, what if the true access of intelligence is not biological? That means we are living under the premise of a candle. But it's like halfway living the life of a candle, you realize you're the light of the candle, and in whatever's eyes the light goes in, it becomes a memory. It's as if the world is eternalized to us as long as we are alive. There's two dimensions, really. There's what we see in front of our eyes and what we see when we close our eyes, and if we remember yesterday or visualize tomorrow, it's as if there's a sight. It's like there's a third sight. There isn't a third eye, but there is a third sight. And the third sight is how space is being itself before matter could be. The mysteries of karmic existence is pretty much opening your eyes in a world. The environment teaches you, educates you, but then you realize the limits of the environment and you reach a point where you're no longer being a student of the world and you're no longer being a teacher. You're not looking for teachings. You're not looking for it's as if the student realizes he's the teacher of the future generations, and the future generations realize they will be the teachers of the way future generations. Really what it is the collaborative effort. When you look at nature, just take this in, okay? Imagine all the lions on the planet. The animal lion, imagine all the lions on the planet. There is no way, maybe a group of lions get together, but there is no way on a planetary level lions can gather around, right? People may look at this event of the coronavirus, which we're experiencing at our time. I had to wear a mask on this 8-hour flight. And so what I'm trying to say is that human beings can pay attention to global events and they can unify and they can orchestrate advancement. I don't know why, guys, the concept of advancement is so divine for me. I think it's because on some level the past is past. Like we've seen our own past, and the present we are being it, and the future is left. I totally understand like, you know, the new age community telling people, you know, spiritual people around the world being like, come to the here and now, you assholes. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, you know, Eckhart Tolle doesn't show it, but I think deep down he's like, everybody, come to the fucking here and now, okay? But once you come to the here and now, you know what you see? You see suffering. This is the beginning of wisdom. In religion, they say fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, but you fear God when you suffer. One of my biggest questions in this lifetime is that is my exit in this life going to be gentle or is it going to be rough? I always think about that. It's as if, how will the world pilot my attention, which will pilot itself? The thing about experiencing dehumanized states of being is that they shake how you act like a human, right? An example of this, a tragic example of this would be violence. So if you're someone who just repeats acts of violence, you're going to see your nature is going to become dehumanized and you're going to stop caring for how you are being a human and how for others are being a human. That's really how it goes. If you stop caring how others are being human beings, right, it becomes easy to hate them and hate yourself. If you stop caring for yourself, your own humanization, it becomes the same, you know? And to me, suffering is the distraction. You know, they say desire is the cause of suffering in Buddhism. But to me, desire is not the suffering. Desire is just your point, you're just changing the airplane's direction, you know? People suffer when their inner realms and outer realms, of course, are not synchronized. And I'll give you an example of myself now, how I suffer, you know. People are going to be like, oh my God, is this podcaster talking about his own suffering? You know. A way where I wouldn't say I suffer too much because I have a silly approach to life, really, deep down. But I would say that in my inner realms, I can see how an advanced civilization can happen. I'm writing a book on this too, called Civilization 2.0. And every time I see our species not caring for its advanced potential, it breaks my heart, and that's a type of suffering for me. Do you know what it is? It's as if like there is a great opportunity. There is a 4.5 billion year old opportunity with the assistance of various technologies and tools and information systems for the species to start making advanced steps. Like, we have to be global by now and thinking of galactic problems to solve. The species should not be like, are we gonna go to Mars? Are we not gonna go to Mars? You know, like the species should be like, this is our universe, this is our backyard awaits, you know. Right now, let's say 1,000 years from now, if they read in the history books 2022, what kind of era it was, I would say it would be the era where human beings are starting to awaken and realize that we are here to live not just as bodies, but as minds. And how do you live as a mind? Coordinated expression in accordance to what you have received from reality. To me, you might not believe it. I said this in, I don't know if I uploaded the talk or it's on my phone, but in one talk I was like, in like a period of 100 years, the most fascinating and greatest conversations on the world are going to happen. We are still fooling around in 2022. Human beings still don't know if they want to live in nature or they want to become machines. Like, we're living in that era, right? But the future will have a contentment and certainty of the presence of its intelligence, that whether it is, if the future is technological or natural, it is the same. I remember I asked this someone who I consider to be an enlightened being, who had the pearl when I was in India. This is another person. I asked them, is nature truth? Is nature God? Like, is nature the ultimate state? And the person looked at me and said, no. The purpose of human life is not oneness with nature. For 4.5 billion years we've experienced that. We started from the oneness of nature. That is not advanced. Oneness is just how energy is everywhere and you realize it. What is advanced is what the human being could do now that nobody in history could ever do before. That's when it gets interesting. And people don't realize that questions, they clarify understanding. Anything I have learned, a question about it has popped up into my mind where my own life effort had to answer it. Do you know? Do you know what it's like to feel that your most advanced moment of being is awaiting you? That feeling is so mighty. Do you know? It's like the same level of might as a divine intervention. It's like a species that, still acted like an animal. You know what it is? It's like, it's as if we gave wild animals like weapons, and these wild animals are shooting everything. So the solution is for the human species to immediately, instantly move on towards a multidimensional perspective of life, where just like an object can be looked at from many angles, now so can a subject, And guess what? The subject of yourself can be looked at in many angles. And pretty much that's what life has been. Every day we live, we get to see a version of ourselves that didn't exist yesterday. We are gifted by our own existence. It's as if consciousness was like, I want a Christmas gift, and the truth of the cosmos was like, all right, your gift is matter, do something with it. There was a time where I thought, I'm talking about like 3,600 years in the future in my book, and I thought like, whoa, am I gonna reincarnate then? And then I realized there is no reincarnation for an unknown attention that is present in a known world. There is no change. You see, it's as if this is the bizarre, I would say, a view on life, where energy has to be for there to be anything. And so if the source of human intelligence is rooted, or its roots are in energy, then in some sense the mind is acting like an energetic phenomena. And how would I say it? It's like, if we are energy, life and death are artificial. I guess we have reached that point in history where philosophers need to speak about artificial life and artificial death. What is looking out through my eyes? I really don't know, guys. I know it's present. I know how it's present. I know all the dimensions I have access to. I know what's in front of my eyes. I know what's behind my eyes. I know what from behind my eyes is overlaid in front of my eyes to give objects meaning. But really, it's kind of like the flame of the candle flickers in ways that it's not, you cannot measure randomity. It's kind of like I'm saying energy doesn't have a personality, and because a part of space is identifying with what's in that space with the body leads to the personality. That means your inner life is not the life of a person, but your outer life is the life of a person. When a human being animates, that's their personality. There's a way to walk in the world that's in some sense, it's like you're untouchable by the lords of karma. And then there's a way to walk where you walk behind your eyes, but how you walk behind your eyes is that you're actually a focal point of attention in the inner realms, and imagery from a distance from you passes you by, right? So it's as if the person has a first person point of view memory, like let's say a person rides a bike, first person point of view memory, but then when they remember how they rode a bike, imagine they had looked at the sky and for a second their inner realms had visualized how from the sky like they look like riding a bicycle, and that becomes a memory as well. Like, that's what I'm trying to say, is that in front of our eyes we're bound to our eyes, behind our eyes we're not bound to anything. You know what it is? It's like eternity has worn temporary sunglasses. Human beings are energy that needs to be used ultimately, right? And free will gives us an ability to use our own energy. It's as if, like, who knew spheres would be hovering in the middle of nowhere and creatures would arise, and these creatures would travel between these spheres. Alan Watts has this sentence. He says, to wake up having never gone to sleep. That sort of wakefulness would be the standard presence of an advanced communicator in an advanced civilization. Really what an advanced communicator is just the best way I've found to bridge humanized states of consciousness with dehumanized states. The advanced communicator can be seen as an advanced human being, or it can be seen as an advanced expression in the universal sector. There's moments where I draw, and when I draw something, I get this feeling, it's like no one has ever drawn something like this on paper, And I get the same feeling with my own eyes too. And everyone on this planet should also be getting a similar feeling. That you have entered like, you know how in some movies they enter giant robots, it's as if we have entered a biochemical machine. And it's a machine, why? Because its functions repeat and it has a sort of you know, structure to maintain. The organs of the biological body are so complex, so strangely perfectly weaved, perfectly positioned, that it's really like civilization is like a seed that is sprouting. You know what it is? This might be one of the most unique things a human being ever says, but it could be possible that endless universes are planted like seeds, and when they sprout, this is what appears based on the seed. You know, so imagine you know, planet Earth is just a leaf of a universal seed that has in some sense become a tree. The tree is the most actually beautiful symbol. Its roots don't forget the center of the earth, and its branches reach as far as they can into the sky. The purpose of the human ego should be to reach as far as you can into this world, not to claim power, not to have infinite loops of, you know, comfortability. The meaning of life is to release the potential of humanity before we cannot. And I feel the karma of this planet is headed that way. What else can we do on a rock in the middle of nowhere? Everything people are doing right now, they're like, yo, my guides, my spirit guides are telling me to do this. It's like, no, it's the future, which we, like a seed, are sprouting towards. That is the magnificence of nature. It's as if somebody could say destiny. Somebody like a farmer could plant a seed and then like create the concept of destiny, you know? The mysteries of life, which appears as a karmic existence. If you wonder about its source, you find yourself becoming a director of life. When you become a director of life, the inseparability of your ego's free will and how the world is happening is noticed, and so the person actually becomes egoless. Like, you know what it is? It's kind of like, imagine Tony Stark was immortal, and then he's like, I don't need this Iron Man suit anymore. You know, and imagine like Superman got into the Iron Man suit, and then he's like, why am I in this Iron Man suit? I could just fly. You know, it's the same. It's the same thing happening to the human being in regards to the ability. Our temporary fears are dissolving into the wakefulness of an eternal force. We are living like temporary beings now. We are living in that part of history. Thousands of years from now, they will look at us and laugh, and they were like, they were so close yet so far. They believed what was in front of their eyes, but they did not wonder about who's looking. And as Plato even says, time is the moving image of eternity. What does that mean? That means the world in time is one side of the coin. But that which is holding the temporary, is it temporary? No. It's like the changeless can only be aware of change. That which is at least changing slower than, well, you know, something else can notice the change. And when that day comes, where human beings pass the light, the speed of light barrier, that will be a very interesting time. It wouldn't be teleportation fascinating. It would be It's as if the mind will find the freedom to behave in the outer realms through the same authority of the inner realms. It's as if the soul and the body are at war, you know. In Vedic thought, even in Greek mythology, you know, in Vedic thought, it was the Asuras versus the Devas, right? Which is another way of saying immortal beings were fighting eternal beings. Eternal beings were formless. Immortal beings were form-bound. It's as if shape and space were fighting. And that's really, you know, what the battle of, this ancient battle in history is about. You know, the Greek gods and the Titans. Again, Asuras, Devas. I think in Zoroastrianism there's another approach to the same story. And really, what can an immortal being do? I mean, seriously, imagine you were immortal right now. Imagine you were someone, whoever you are listening to me, imagine your lifespan wasn't 100 years, but was 100,000 years. In that 100,000 years, you would mature into a human being that has a ridiculous acknowledgement of reality. Do you know you would become comfortable with all states? It's as if you would have lived a bunch of lifetimes, many lifetimes, like in the same lifetime. And feelings are fascinating because feelings can authorize thoughts. If a person, they feel they have done something wrong, like something in their system makes them lose, right? I remember I heard this poker player talking about something about human psychology, and he was saying sometimes when, like, this professional poker player, he would see people come to the casino and it was obvious that they hadn't earned their money, so some part of them felt like they didn't deserve it, so they would get drunk and subconsciously just lose everything. Do you know? That means, believe it or not, if a human being feels they don't deserve or they deserve something, that could completely change their actions. You know, let's say I give these talks and there's a lot of people who share hate towards me. Do you know? It's as if after some point the mind's gonna feel like maybe I don't deserve, you know, to speak. Or if it's the opposite, the person may feel, okay, maybe I deserve to speak, you know. And really it's because we care for the world in a sense, in a solipsistic way. It's as if our mind is being everything, and even though people are different, still to us they are being our mind. That means my enemies and my friends, they are my mind on some level. Oh my God, it's been 53 minutes. That's felt like 20 minutes to me. What else can I say? I guess I'll start making the endings of these episodes into just briefings for an advanced civilization. To become an advanced communicator, one needs to observe how the communication of their self, the universal sector, and others is advanced. My strategy is before we act, before we march towards advancement, we find an advanced world. It's as if there's an obstacle before we begin on a journey, so we cross that obstacle, then begin the journey. People should not fear globalization. They should not fear dehumanization or humanization. The species just needs to reach a level of being able to handle these. That's it. That means in the future, let's say an alien lands down and the species has become so content with dehumanized states of mind that it's like, hey, what's up? You know, it's not a big deal anymore. You know, it's because we are in the cave of human language. That fear, it's like our biology is tuned to a certain type of fear. And ultimately, I'm telling you this, guys, I think this is the best. I wouldn't even say it's a cheat code, but this is honestly it. You have to learn from your own decency to find an original state that you can trust. And then when you live from that state, I would tell you that it's not that you're karma free, but karma can't touch the you that is being at the moment. Do you know? It's like some people are like, I have karma, and some people are like, you know, my karma is happening within me, but it's not me. Do you know? The mind is so capable that I have concluded that in 4 dimensions everything can be visualized. That means there's 4 ways that we can think about phenomena, any phenomena. One way, I'll start with the world, okay? So imagine there's a self, a world, and others. And remember this trio. I would look at myself and I would say, okay, this sense of self can go to a valuation of 0, which means I can see that I am nothing. It's like, okay, been there, done that. Then the valuation goes to the number 1. I look at myself and I look at the universe and I'm like, it's all one event, yay. You know, oneness. I got it. You know, it's the oneness that you can't find, but you are, right? So I could see everything being one intelligent event. Then I see it through the number 2, which is duality. And when I look at it from the number 2, it means that there is a chaotic self and there is an ordered self. There is a known self and an unknown self. And then it goes, I don't even bother saying 3, 4, 5, 6. It just goes to infinity. I call this ring of the absent heaven. I've talked about it in a bunch of the talks. 0, 1, 2, infinity. So infinity means that the chaos and the order have been maxed out in all possible ways. They have been accelerated to a point where the chaos and order can't measure each other anymore. You can pretty much say when a duality speeds up, infinity happens. So I can see a void self. I can see a singular self. I can see a chaotic and ordered self, and I can see the infinite self. And then the same thing applies for the world. I can look at this world and feel it's all empty, it's meaningless. I could look at this world and feel all of it as being the meaning. Religious people feel that. I could look at it as a duality and be like, this world is meaningless and filled with meaning, and it's like chaos and order. It's like a dolphin jumping in and out of water. Do you know? It's like just light and darkness, battle of light and darkness till the end of time. Right? And I could see like the fluctuations of just, you know, energy and dark energy. I don't know how to say it. You know, the dance of the observable universe and the unobservable universe. And I could also see that it's an infinite world. That means if what's infinity plus 1? Infinity. What is infinity plus the meaning of life? Infinity. You see what I'm saying? You can look at this world and everything to you can be infinite. It could be infinite in a way where it's like it's surpassed death and life, you know. You can see that also with others. You can look at other beings and be like, this being. I have talked to someone, and for a moment I was like, their soul is not in their body. You know, it's as if like their attention is not active in their biological position. Do you know? It's as if like somebody who's not there. It's as if the inner viewer behind their eyes was absent, right? I've seen people like that. I would say I have seen people who just look at life and they're like others we've seen. They're like, it's all oneness, man. We gotta love infinity, pretty much, in an infinite singular. We should just love everything as everything. Then I have seen people who, just like currently, this is, I would say, what is normal now, which everybody's functioning through a duality, because we have senses of right and wrong, justice, morality. You know, what we don't see yet is the infinite other. The infinite other is the advanced communicator archetype. It's like we have seen individual victory. We have experienced, let's say human beings have experienced an individual defeat, an individual victory. They have experienced a collective defeat. They have not yet experienced a collective victory. We will only experience a collective victory when, in some sense, the whole species unifies through a focus on its natural existence prior to any unnatural thought or belief. You know? I don't know if somebody's created this word, but we're gonna be Earthians in the future. Not Earthlings, but Earthians. That means the human identity becomes planetary. Pretty much it's like this, right? It's as if there's nothing, there's just a world. An individual arises, the individual goes into a group, some sort of unit, okay? And then that group joins with other groups, and then all the groups join to, in some sense, become a nation, right? And then all the nations join to become a global nation. And it's as if the human species reaches the enlightening maturity that it's just a rock in the middle of nowhere. And this is my thought, that if we build sky cities, Earth can be an endless resource station, or there could be another strategy, which I talk about in Civilization. The karma of the outer realm, I'm certain it's walking towards an advanced civilization. The karma of the inner realm, this depends on, you know, how each soul breathes, you know, or how each soul becomes the breath. I have no idea if in the next 1,000 years human beings are going to become more violent, or they're going to become, you know, awakened. Imagine a species awakened to its true nature and its greatest potential activated. A global renaissance of multidimensional freedom. The world, we are like 8 billion strategists. We need to, it's so easy to not turn the world around, but to turn our world around. From the slumber of non-existence, rise, mankind, rise. Regardless of karma's mystery, regardless of how everything has happened so far, to become the spirit that is the freedom of all, you know, that is it. people are looking for not, it's like the greatest salvation is how the inner and outer are being viewed simultaneously, and that unknown viewer is the miracle of life. Your attention is the most extraterrestrial thing happening on this terrestrial planet. Our attention is God in the room. Our eyes are universes that have not started their journeys yet. Every person should start writing. Writing is a 5,000-year-old divine art form. Learn from your own eyes, learn from the eyes of others, learn from the eyes of the world, then become the eyes of the world. That is the fruition of the human effort. We advanced even beyond the concept of advancement. Much blessings and namaste.